So if they're not going to pay us to grow food, they have now lost the right to tell us what to do. As I understand it, it was a very rushed last-minute decision.
Jeremy Clarkson has just fired a sharp and unfiltered warning straight at Keir Starmer, and it's explosive. The outspoken TV host is sounding the alarm over a looming crisis in UK farming, placing the blame directly on Labour's leader. Clarkson says Starmer's policies could bankrupt family farms, push rural communities into poverty, and strip away land that farmers have fought to protect for generations. He warns these decisions could cause permanent damage to the backbone of Britain's agriculture. And this isn't just talk. Clarkson's words carry weight. He's lived the struggles of farming firsthand, and the statistics he points to reveal just how serious the crisis in the countryside has become.
For all the farmers who are stuck at home today, paralysed by a fog of despair, I beg of the government to be big, to accept that this was rushed through, it wasn't thought out, and it's a mistake. That's the big thing to do, admit it, and back down.
Jeremy Clarkson is enraged, and his warning to Keir Starmer has left many asking, is there truth to it? Known for building a career on controversy, Clarkson is now throwing his full energy into defending Britain's farmers with an intensity few ever expected. What began as a TV experiment has grown into a deep commitment. Clarkson's Farm, his hit documentary, turned into a phenomenon, pulling in over 5 million viewers in its first season. It gave audiences a brutally honest, sometimes darkly funny look at the real struggles of rural life, from devastating crop failures to endless red tape. Now, Clarkson says Labour's tax policies will drive family farms into financial collapse. He accuses Starmer of ignoring rural voices, while forcing through rules that make farming nearly impossible. And the biggest flashpoint, proposed inheritance tax changes. Clarkson warns these could dismantle farms that families have fought to keep for generations. Beyond that, he slams Labour for prioritising city interests while leaving the countryside to fend for itself.
Farmers are going back to London, but this time with tractors. That's right, with tractors.
Support for Keir Starmer in rural constituencies is collapsing. Once loyal farming communities are now turning their backs on Labour, furious at what they see as outright betrayal. That anger is no longer silent. Farmers have taken to the streets, even driving tractors into city centres in a desperate bid to force Labour's leadership to finally hear their pleas. Jeremy Clarkson's own struggles have only added fuel to the fire. He blasts Labour for what he calls city-focused policies that trample on the needs of rural Britain. And in his words, the party is run by dreadful people, completely out of touch with the realities of farming.
And Gareth Wyn-Jones as well supporting us, that farmers will be attending London in their mass on tractors. So Fairness to Farmers have teamed up with Save British Farming and other farming platforms around.
In rural Britain,
groups
Jeremy Clarkson
UK
earns genuine respect from countless people who feel ignored in national debates. His push for change hasn't come without backlash. Some critics accuse him of oversimplifying complex farming issues, pointing to his blunt style and celebrity fame. But what no one can deny is his unmatched ability to shine a spotlight on farmers' struggles. Across the country, farmers praise him for standing with them, calling it a rare moment when someone with a national platform truly understands their fight. For many in rural areas, Clarkson is no longer just a TV personality. He's become a symbolic voice of defiance against policies they see as destructive. His presence at protests has amplified their message, drawing media attention that might otherwise have passed them by. Even his critics admit one thing: Clarkson's celebrity has forced politicians to confront problems they've long chosen to ignore.
I'm here to support the farmers. It's that simple. So they need all the help they can get, really.
Yeah.
Even from me. As I understand it, it was a very rushed last-minute decision. And I think, we all make mistakes in life, and I think it's time for them to say, you know what, we one up a bit and back down. That's my view.
When Jeremy Clarkson speaks, the nation listens, whether they agree with him or not. His rise as a defender of rural Britain reached a peak when he joined farmers in London to protest Labour's controversial inheritance tax plans. Marching shoulder to shoulder with those he now calls his peers, Clarkson didn't hold back. He warned that a shocking number of farmers are trapped in crushing poverty, struggling to survive against mounting costs and punishing policies. It was a scene worlds away from his days on Top Gear, a powerful reminder of just how far Clarkson's understanding of and commitment to rural struggles has grown.
And I think, we all make mistakes in life, and I think it's time for them to say, you know what, we cop this one up a bit and back down.
As Clarkson's criticism of Labour's agenda grows sharper, the divide between city-based decision-makers and the rural population is stretching to breaking point. His blunt warnings about the devastating impact of these proposals not just on farming, but on fragile countryside economies, and even major broadcasters like ITV are gaining serious traction nationwide. This surge of attention has cemented Clarkson's transformation from an outspoken entertainer into a powerful, credible voice in agricultural debates. And with Labour still struggling to form a clear response to his relentless attacks, one fact is undeniable. Jeremy Clarkson has become an unexpected yet formidable defender of rural Britain. Across the countryside, thousands of farming families now face the grim prospect of losing land that has been in their care for generations. Agricultural groups report that most small and medium-sized farms are already operating on razor-thin margins, with many just months away from financial collapse. Rural charities are now warning of a growing humanitarian crisis as livelihoods, homes, and entire communities hang in the balance. Critics argue that if Labour's policies move forward, the damage won't just touch hundreds but potentially hundreds of thousands of people directly tied to the agricultural sector. The desperation is real and it's growing. More families fear their way of life is being quietly dismantled in the name of political agendas.
We've got a few things to say, and I'm going to start with a bit of honesty. I lived in London 25, 30 years, and when I was here, like a lot of people who live in cities and go on Twitter, I thought farmers drove around in Range Rovers, moaning, until February, and then you all went skiing. And then about 5 years ago I started farming, and I've come to understand just how unbelievably difficult it is, and complicated, and dangerous, and cold. Even when we're harvesting it's cold. And it's just the forest of costs that staggered me. £200,000.
His evolution from a car-obsessed presenter into a genuine advocate for farmers hasn't just transformed his own perspective, it's changing the way the nation talks about the future of agriculture and life beyond the cities. But while Clarkson fights fiercely for the countryside, Labour's vision paints a very different picture of what lies ahead for Britain's rural heartlands. Here's the reality. Nearly half of all farms in England are valued at more than £1.5 million. At first glance, that might sound harmless, even reassuring, but in the current political climate, it carries alarming significance. Because under Labour's plans, that simple figure could become a ticking time bomb, a statistic that threatens to push family-owned farms to the brink, dismantling generations of hard work and tearing apart the very foundations of Britain's agricultural tradition. The question is simple. How long before this innocent-sounding number turns into catastrophe?
I understand that some people won't like the changes that we've made. But I say this with all candour. I say the door is open and you can...
Labour's latest proposal to impose an inheritance tax on farms valued at over £1 million has sent shockwaves through rural Britain, igniting fears of a crisis that could dismantle family farming as we know it. With an effective tax rate of 20% on assets above this threshold, experts warn the impact on multi-generational farms could be nothing short of devastating. And this isn't about a handful of wealthy landowners. Official figures show that nearly half of all farms in England fall into this bracket, putting countless families at immediate risk. The backlash has been swift, loud, and impossible to ignore. In an unprecedented show of unity, thousands of farmers have poured into the streets of London, rallying against what they call a direct attack on their livelihoods. Among the charged crowds, Jeremy Clarkson was seen standing shoulder to shoulder with farmers. But he wasn't the only public figure to make headlines that day. Controversial commentator Katie Hopkins also arrived to back the farmers' cause. Hopkins fiercely accused Labour of launching a deliberate assault on the backbone of Britain, claiming the party is prioritising ideological, city-centric policies over the survival of hard-working rural families. And she saved her sharpest criticism for Keir Starmer himself, a man who speaks of
brilliant British farmers who are protesting about what effectively is, brilliant people, brilliant, effectively a land grab by the government against our British farmers. And inside this building, with all its people in their pathetic little John Lewis suits, are some of the biggest criminals. These are the people that are creating the problem. Ed Miliband's dickheads at the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero. And I hope that every single one of them today, when they come out to have their Pret or their coat in their stupid little suits, would you please? They brought the tanks. This is going to be a Tiananmen Square moment. Well done! Well done, lads! Go, go, go! Let's hope they shoot the lot. Not allowed to say that, I'll get arrested. They're not asking for favours. Do you know what I mean? They're asking for Keir Starmer, stuck between tractor tyres and exciting again. They're just asking for the right to pass their own farms down that they were inherited from their parents to their kids. You know, they're asking for the right to keep feeding the British people. They're asking for the right to just keep getting up at 4 in the morning to try and keep their animals alive and to try and keep crops in the ground when the weather's so interchangeable, when they're not allowed to use fertiliser, when they're not allowed to do what they want with their land anymore because Miliband says it might kill the planet.
Clarkson, refusing to stand silently on the sidelines, joined the protesters shoulder to shoulder. Using his voice and platform to amplify their message, he made it painfully clear that many farmers are already teetering on the brink of absolute poverty, and this tax could be the final blow. A blow that would force them to sell off land that has been in their families for generations. For Clarkson, this isn't just about numbers on a balance sheet. It's about preserving a way of life, one he's come to understand through his own struggles on Diddley Squat Farm, and as he warned, once the land is gone, it will never return.
They have to back off. Can't allow them to dictate to us anymore. I've met some people from the government now.
Jeremy Clarkson has never been known for holding back. Once regarded simply as a motor-mouthed television presenter, he has now recast himself as an unlikely champion of Britain's farming communities. And in the midst of Labour's controversial new policies on inheritance tax and rural regulation, Clarkson's warnings are reverberating across the countryside. And far beyond what began as a personal experiment for Amazon's Clarkson's farm has grown into something far larger, a national debate about the future of agriculture. His series, watched by more than 5 million in its first season, offered a brutally honest and often darkly comic look at the trials of running Diddley Squat Farm. The cameras captured crop failures, red tape, and the sheer grind of agricultural life. But they also built Clarkson's credibility. Unlike many critics of Westminster's policies, he has mud on his boots and losses on his balance sheet. That authenticity now fuels his fiercest criticism yet. Clarkson has accused Labour of pushing policies that will bankrupt small farms, drive rural families into poverty, and strip away land held for generations.